everyone. Welcome to today's live. I was just thinking about how we did our AMA yesterday and how it feels like it was a week ago. So thanks for coming out to this one. It's kind of fun doing an AMA at a completely different hour because I feel like there are different time zones that are able to come then. So yeah, when I tell you that yesterday's AMA was hard, like hear us out, okay? We had to act like we didn't know anything about what was just about to drop, right? So big announcement yesterday, big game changes, so much is coming. So we wanted to do this AMA today, this live stream, to just go over all of it. Let's just talk about everything that went down yesterday, what you can expect, what's to come, all of the fun stuff. So if you're in game, make sure you're in the theater for some passive energy, the popcorn flying everywhere. If you got a question, make sure you put it in the live chat on YouTube directly. And yeah, we'll be paying attention to your questions and stuff, but let's bring up Luke.
Hey, everybody. Man, what a crazy last couple of days. Yeah, one, I want to give a shout out to the team. They've been working so hard to pull all of this off. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. In just about like a week or two, Pixels is about to be one of the largest cryptocurrencies in the world and one of the largest Web3 gaming coins in the world too. And really, that's all thanks to the community too. So today, what I want to go over is, I want to talk about tokenomics. I want to talk about airdrop. I wanted to go over basically all the questions. We see comments, we see everything that's going on. And we're here with you guys. We've been doing this every single week for over 2 years now. I'm telling you guys, we really want to build out the best products and build the best possible thing that we can. So I guess like maybe where I want to start is to talk about what we're doing here at Pixels, what the mission is, what our vision is for the space of Web3, and what we're really trying to do here. So we talk about this all the time. We love Web3 gaming. We love play to earn. We love the space in general. And we view Web3 as the next generation of gaming. We think that it's going to transform the way that games are made and the way that games grow in a way that's not even able to compete with Web2 games. So what we kind of like to view ourselves is as like an early version of Zynga, but in Web3 essentially. And our goal is to basically build the biggest possible ecosystem that we can. And it's not into the level of one game. It's not into the level of just like one experience we want to offer. We want to build the biggest possible ecosystem possible. So in the long run, that means multiple games. That means tons of experiences, interconnectedness, all this kind of stuff. And this is just the beginning of what we're up to here. So, in order to do that, we have to build a really fun game and experience that's sustainable. So yesterday we announced that we are sunsetting Berry, which is pretty crazy, right? It's one of those things that we couldn't talk about, right? Because talking about it changes what we're able to do there, right? And it was one of those things that we debated for a really long time. We love Berry. Berry was so fun for a while. But the issue with Berry was everybody knew it, right? It was a little too good to be true. It wasn't sustainable. Berry was inflating at about like 2% a day. And essentially, without any of the, airdrop grind or things like that, it was going to put a lot of people in a really bad situation. So what's interesting is when we were launching Pixel, we had the opportunity to essentially transfer value from Berry into Pixel. And we ended up going with that direction. So I know it seems kind of crazy to do that. And it's a big change. And change can be really scary sometimes. But we feel pretty positive about the direction in the future. And now what this enables us to do is this enables us to focus just on one currency moving forward. The issue with Berry and soft currencies in Web3 gaming in general is if you've ever played an MMO like RuneScape or World of Warcraft, you know that these currencies have issues with farming. Gold farming is a thing in any MMO or really any online economy game. But when you start to add in the Web3 components, that's a whole nother host of issues. There will be a team eventually that figures out how to make a soft currency like Berry in Web3 gaming work. And I actually think Axie Infinity is quite close with SLP. But also, it took Axie Infinity and the Sky Mavis team years and years to figure out SLP, how to balance it, how to measure the faucets and sinks. And if we were to do a 2-token model, if we were to continue to have Berry live and in the game and try to manage Pixel, it would be a really hard battle for us to fight. Instead, now what we can do is we can focus all of our efforts, energy, and time on just one currency, and our tokenomics become much simpler this way. So we're really excited about the possibilities of this means and the future of the Pixel currency as well. So we had a bunch of exciting announcements today. 1, Play-to-Airdrop allocations. 2, we announced that Pixel's foundation has raised, strategic rounds of funding. Those rounds of funding were led by Framework Ventures, Collab Currency, Bolt Capital, some of the best investors in Web3. We're so excited to have them join us, and basically we have the best people in our corner guiding us to the next stages of everything that we're building here. This really, really big, crazy vision. More than just one game. We want to build basically the most massive company that we possibly can and have Pixel be at the center of it. So we're really excited about the next stages. Really excited to move on with them. But then we also released our white paper today too. So we'll spend some time talking about that. And I've seen some comments. I've seen some maybe concerns, things around that kind of stuff. What I'll do today is I'll kind of walk through it. I'll kind of explain to you guys what we're thinking, how this all relates. And, I promise you guys we're doing this with like community's best interest in mind. We'll kind of explain to you guys like all the decisions that we made, why we are going in these directions, and what the different splits, things like that mean. And then for the last section, what we'll go over to is we'll start to talk about chapter 2, because we started releasing some of the elements of chapter 2. And I know there's a bunch of really big gameplay changes that are a bit shocking to people as well. And yeah, I know change can be really hard and tough sometimes, right? You got used to this routine of, farming berry, selling to the store, doing your rounds, and the game's going to be a lot different moving forward. It's interesting, right? Because, the stuff that we had going on before was pretty fun. But we're actually really excited about the next stages of gameplay, and we think it's going to be even more fun. So I know it's a lot of changes. I know there's, some uncertainty, some ambiguity through all of this too. But again, we are so excited about the next stages. We're going to be on Binance. We're going to be listing on, on Launchpool. Like, these are insane milestones that, we feel really lucky to be in this corner, right? So the also other exciting part of this too is after this, Play-to-Airdrop and all this allocation too, you guys are part owners in one of the largest Web3 games in the space. So remember that too. So we'll talk about all these little pieces. I think the easiest thing to go start to dig into is maybe we go into the white paper a little bit and we start to explain, what exactly Pixel is, what it does, our intentions behind it. And then we'll start to get into some of the interesting stuff too. I think some of the pieces that people might be missing are around like the governance, the interesting stuff that we're doing with that. So, okay, let's start from the top. Pixel is a cap supply token. It is only going to have 5 billion tokens ever, and those will be the tokens that are created. When Pixel is released, there will be about 15.42% total unlocked at the time of token generation event. So this is important to note. Sometimes you'll see tokens that when they launch on an exchange, they might have about like 6% unlocked at token generation event. And this actually leads to much worse outcomes in the long run. This is kind of a new philosophy in TGEs lately, where people kind of want to have a larger amount unlocked at the very beginning of a TGE so that there's less inflation, less sell pressure over the long run. So it's one of those things that's a bit painful in the very beginning to have so much unlocked at the beginning, right? The idea is you want people to really discover the token, and you want people to actually want to hold, you want people who want to hold the token to hold it. So you kind of get it out of the way really early on, and then you have this token that's out. So 15.42% unlocked at the initial distribution. And here, let me pull up this chart too right now. We'll kind of go through what all of this looks like. So I'm pulling up the white paper. This white paper is available at pixels.xyz or whitepaper.pixels.xyz. And you can kind of go and look through the different splits. So you see here, 12.5% is reserved for team, 9.5% for advisors, 7% for Binance Launchpool, 14% for investors, 5% for alpha rewards, liquidity 1%, ecosystem 34%, treasury 17%. Lots here. It's just much easier to explain it. Team allocation. It has a 1-year lockup on it, 3 years linear vesting. The team, including myself, gets 0 tokens at the time of token generation event, and they're locked for over a year. So I can't even touch any of them. None of the team can touch any of them for 1 year. In fact, we haven't even allocated all the tokens to internal team members either. We've been saving about 50% for future employees, future hires, all of this side of things too. So yeah, really this is to fund team, give incentives to build the best possible team that we can in Web3, knowing that the future of the ecosystem is really all involved around the people who are creating the game, right? So we want to get the best talent, we want to get the best people here. The incentives are also aligned too. What we want is we want to create an ecosystem that is aligned in the long term too. So it really is actually important to have team aligned in the long term. You want the team to have tokens vested out over a very long period of time so that they're properly incentivized to also grow the ecosystem in the long run too. Next, we'll get to advisors. So with advisors, there are lockups and there is emissions on this as well too. All of this will be on chain. Most advisors are on a 1-year lockup, 3-year vest. Binance Launchpool, 7%. It's really exciting to move on to those stages. Investors, 14%. Those are on a 1-year lockup, 3-year vest. None of the investors have any tokens that unlock for over a year. Alpha rewards, no lockups, no vesting on all of that. And then ecosystem rewards. So ecosystem rewards is the initial amount of tokens that we have allocated for essentially, play to earn rewards, for community rewards, all of this side of things. And the ecosystem rewards are what we are very excited about and most interested in. And there's a couple of different things that go into this too. So, I've seen some comments on Twitter. I've seen some things where some people might not feel like this is large enough at the very beginning. But really what the important part is when it comes to token distribution is it's the emission schedules. So you have to think about how much of the token is getting added into the total supply every single day or every single month, because that's going to change a lot of the tokenomics on how the total circulating supply is. And most of the emissions, if you can look, are coming from this ecosystem fund. So when we think about ecosystem rewards, one, we think a lot about who to distribute these rewards to, but we also think a lot about how the earnings are also getting spent inside of the game. So if you look here, we talk a lot about sustainable growth. And sustainable growth is basically the entire focus of this ecosystem. So what's interesting about having a popular token is the earnings that are able to be distributed increase. But then if the earnings increase inside of the game, so basically with this cap supply on ecosystem earnings, we will have a budget of tokens to give every single month. That's how we like to view it. These ecosystem rewards vest every single month, and there's essentially a budget of ecosystem rewards in the terms of how much are getting distributed every single month. Here, if we go here, you'll see that there's a linear unlock over 5 years. So basically, we get 34 divided by 60% every single month to give out. That is our rewards budget. The team cannot distribute any more rewards than that. Depending on FTV, that determines the value of the rewards, right? Depending on how many users there are, that determines like players per reward. The reward structure is interesting, right? But the interesting thing too that we really care about is if you have rewards to give out, then we also want to make sure that we're making sure those rewards are used. So the more rewards that there are, the more that you have to balance it out with actually burning a token too. And that's a tricky thing. That's a very hard thing to balance actually. Over emitting a token, nobody likes that. We don't want to get into the same situation as Barry. But that also is it's a very big task that we're taking on when we say, we have all this reward to distribute. It's our job as a game studio to make sure that we're also burning equally as many rewards in the ideal situation, right? So we don't want to over emit there, and that's a really crucial thing. Now, do note that when we are burning tokens, this is a really key part of the white paper when we talk about the DAO. These tokens aren't going to us. These tokens are going to a community treasury. So basically anything when you spend pixel inside of the game, it doesn't go back to team, it circulates back into the community's hands. So even though you might see this and say 34% isn't, that much of the token supply, all this side of things, what we're actually trying to create is something a bit bigger than that. You look at this graph, and this graph is not, how all the tokens move in the long run. If it makes sense, what we want to do is we want to be burning more tokens than are even spent inside it or distributed inside of the game at all. Like the ideal situation when we think about tokenomics for ecosystem rewards is that most of these ecosystem rewards are actually coming from pixel that we have burned through in-game utility. Does that make sense? So the ideal situation is we essentially have created a network and a flow of cycles of tokens. Essentially, a team never gets access to that. It goes to a DAO, and the DAO gets to decide what to do with it. So if the DAO wants to redistribute these tokens back in the ecosystem rewards, they can do that. If the DAO wants to, essentially remove tokens from circulating supply, that's an option too. The DAO wants to replenish or like give grants for community built tooling, infrastructure, all of this side of things. That's an option too. But no, in the long run, like essentially what we're trying to create is more like a protocol, right? We want to generate protocol fees. We want to distribute these fees back to the community. The community then circulates it. We want it to be completely circular, circular, circular. I hope that makes sense. I'm very tired. It's a bit hard for me to explain this in the way that I typically would or want to. But yeah, I do hope you guys understand. Like the idea is this is a long-term play. We want to create an ecosystem that has health, longevity for more than just these emission schedules, more than just for like 6 months. This is like what we're going to dedicate our lives to, or at least I am, for the next however long it takes. And again, the vision here, we're trying to be as big as possible. We want it to be huge. It's not just this silly little pixel game that we're building. We want to build multiple titles. We want to build a whole entire ecosystem around what we're doing here. It's funny because I had somebody congratulate me the other day, or I guess last night, when we were announcing the listing, and they kind of were acting like we had done it, like we had finished what we were doing, and now we listed on Binance. It's all good, right? You did it. You won Web3, but that's not the case at all. This is literally day one now. I feel like our journey in Web3 is actually just starting. And we've been talking about this for so long, right? We've been talking about what it means to, actually have a token that's out, the weight of that, and what it can actually do for us too. Now we have so much room to play with and discover in Web3. It's extremely exciting for us. And we're so glad to take you guys along on the journey with us. So yeah, just note, we think a lot about, what the token does. We think a lot about how to give the community ownership through this token. And there's going to be way more coming with this as well too. So yeah, we'll dig into this and talk about some more stuff too. So if you look into the white paper, we can start to go a bit more into it too. We can talk about the earning mechanisms, like how do you earn Pixel? So we introduced a new system yesterday called the Taskboard. And the Taskboard is super exciting. It's going to be the main way that we distribute the Pixel token actually. You guys are using coins inside of the Taskboard now, but we just announced in the tweet that we announced earlier a new change that's coming tomorrow. So for those of you who have been hoarding resources and don't really know what to do with them, we actually have a small portion of Pixel reserved for this person as well. What we're doing is we'll actually be adding in Pixel rewards for the next week in the Taskboard too. So make sure to check in daily into the Taskboard. You might have Pixel that you can exchange resources for. And yeah, that'll be super fun. But the Taskboard is essentially this new system we're creating in this much larger chain of events called Chapter 2. I am so excited about Chapter 2. I am so geeked out on it. I think the gameplay is going to get so much better through what we're doing here. The game will look a lot different. And I will say the game will probably cater towards maybe a slightly different persona than has been playing the game right now. If all you're doing inside of the game is farming water mint, selling it, and then like repeating the process, the game's gonna look a lot different. And you might not be able to do the same thing that you were doing before. We talk a lot about our view on play to earn in the AMAs, right? And for us, what we're thinking we're building here is kind of the next generation of play to earn. And for us, what that means is we needed to attack it from a couple of different mindsets. One, we wanted to de-risk the entire ecosystem with a highly inflationary currency that might actually cause harm in the long run. So we want to transfer value to the Pixel token. Two, we wanted to create gameplay that was much more engaging and interesting than doing the same repeated process every single day. And the Taskboard helps us accomplish that, right? We can balance different tasks. We can give you different things to do. The gameplay is much different. And once we start to introduce Pixel into the Taskboard, which will be going live tomorrow, you're going to see a much different style of gameplay than you're currently participating in right now. And I know it feels different. I know it feels a bit scary or maybe a bit nerve-wracking. But yeah, that's kind of the intention. We want to change things up. We want to build a new experience, and we want to build one that we believe is sustainable too. So that's really, I guess, the key to everything that we're doing here. I want to full-heartedly believe that what we're doing is sustainable, and I will not build anything that's not sustainable. That is the biggest thing on my mind, and that's the biggest thing that I care about. I want to prove to people that Web3 gaming can work. I want to prove to people that Web3 gaming is the future, and it has to be sustainable to do that. So there's changes that maybe in the short term might seem a little bit weird to some people, but also believe me, we're doing this to really change gaming in general. The vision's crazy, and if we weren't doing something that felt crazy, if we weren't doing something that felt this ambitious, I personally wouldn't want to do this. I don't have to be here building pixels, right? There's a lot of other stuff I could be doing inside of my life. So why am I spending so much time doing this? For me, it's not about money. For me, it's not about anything like that. For me, it's really this interesting problem set. Like we have the chance to change an entire industry, and this team of misfits here in Pixels, this is such a funny team. This is such a hilarious like group of people that have managed to come together and do this. They're putting their hearts, their souls into doing this. Like we actually all really care. We care a ton about making changes here, and actually doing something interesting. These people work so hard. Me too. And yeah, the motivation's interesting, right? So we really appreciate all of you being here along on the ride with us. And yeah, again, at the end of the day, like we really care about all of you. Like that's literally why we're on AMAs right now, right? That's why I'm in a Discord all the time. If I didn't care, I would check out. I would be on a sailboat in the middle of the ocean right now, and yeah, I would be living a completely different lifestyle, right? I'm choosing to be here because I want to be here because I care about you guys. I know so many of your names. I know your first and last names. I know so much about so many of you, right? So I really hope there's some trust with us. So let's talk about it, and let's talk about like some of our intentions and like some of the things that happened, right? So we just did a Play-to-Airdrop, right? We did a season 1 and a season 2. We just released allocation for that. And yeah, it's interesting because some people thought that we had or should have had a higher percent reserved for Play-to-Airdrop. Yeah, that's an interesting point. And what I can say on that is one, what we were trying to maximize for was outcome for everybody. So, I've said like smaller slice of a larger pie before, but I think a lot of people sometimes get into a zero sum game or like a zero sum mindset, right? Where percents are important to focus on, but like also focus on the other things that are happening too. Focus on the difference in terms of like outcome for this project versus maybe others. Like the fact that we're, moving to Launchpool that we're listing on Binance is actually a really, really big deal. And it's a much different outcome than if we were to be going in other directions, basically. So, as we've evolved Pixels, the opportunities in front of us have gotten better for everybody, which is amazing. And, it's actually a really good thing for everybody too. But I know it doesn't always, optically appear like that sometimes. And then sometimes there's things like with this berry sunset where we can't always talk about what we're doing because even if we have your best interest in mind, sometimes transparency actually hurts that. If we had, talked about the berry sunset before we had done it, it actually wouldn't have been possible. One, it would have been widely speculated on. If you saw it after the announcement of us listing on Launchpool, the price of berries skyrocketed, right? If there was any rumors or leaks that had gotten out of that too, could have maybe had that happen, and then we would have had the risk of running into a very similar situation that SLP or other in-game inflationary tokens had run into before. We were terrified of Berry, to be completely honest. Berry is really exploitable. It's really hard to manage in terms of the currency. I give so much props to Sky Mavis for what they've been able to do with SLP, but I also know there's like I don't think you guys understand how many people have worked on making SLP what it is right now. It is crazy the amount of work, energy, and effort that they've had to do to get there. That team's amazing. The Web3 game design expertise that they have are so good, but it's not an easy task. So when I'm thinking about the resources our team has and the problems that we're able to solve and tackle, there were some interesting things that we could be doing. Like if we want to put all of our time, energy, and focus into solving this soft currency problem in Web3 gaming of how do you integrate a soft currency that is able to be seamlessly sold onto a marketplace into a game, and how do you manage that? I think we could have done it, right? But then we wouldn't be able to do these other things that we're trying to be doing too. The problem that we're most interested in solving is basically bringing play to earn to the masses. How do we create a sustainable ecosystem that distributes value back to its users? And how do we create an ecosystem that lasts as well? It's a really tricky thing. It's a really difficult thing. And that's what we want to be solving. That is the thing that like gets me up every single day, and the thing that makes me want to keep building this. So if we want to focus our efforts onto that, we have to be singularly focused. We have to make sure that we are doing the things that we need to do and focusing really tightly on these problems. So for us, what that meant was turning focus, energy, and direction onto a single currency, because it makes life so much easier, and it makes our focus and our ability to actually do what we need to for this currency 100 times easier. I think that's a life lesson in general. You want to take the path of least resistance towards achieving your goals. And what's really great too is with the amount of pixel that's being distributed to everyone who held Berry, we're pretty optimistic of outcomes there. I think when, in a week or two, I think there will be a bit different of an energy around some of this stuff, is what I can say. So let's talk about the airdrop splits too. So 5% for Play-to-Airdrop. I think people think we allocated more for the Berry buyback than we did. What was really good about Berry was it was not a very high market cap token. I think it was about like 5 to 6 million total if you removed our ownership over it. So we put aside about 1.5% of the Play-to-Airdrop allocation for Berry. For season 1, you guys got about 1.5%. For season 2, it was 1%. And then for this Taskboard rewards, so if you have resources that you're hoarding, we are reserving another like 0.5% for that. And I'll use another 0.5%, which will be announced soon, is what I can say. So again, this airdrop is really interesting because it was distributed pretty broadly. And yeah, I know there's always going to be mixed expectations around any airdrop. But yeah, I just want you guys to know again that we really are thinking about how can we maximize and like how can we create the best possible situations essentially. And I truthfully am still really convinced that what we did here was the best thing that we could do. Think about where we were 6 months ago. It's crazy, right? Like Pixel 6 months ago versus now is extremely different. And the startup game, the startup roller coaster is really funny. There were a lot of times when I wasn't sure if Pixels was going to make it, right? And I still have to show up to AMAs. I have to be all smiley, but it gets really hard, right? So the difference in outcome for basically everybody that's been following this project is significantly different than where we were at 6 months ago, and it's because of all the things that we've been doing over the last little bit, right? So just know that we really appreciate all of you, and yeah, we really do have everybody's best interest in mind. Like that is, I think about this 24/7. It's like, how do I make the people that care about me and believe in me win, basically? And yeah, that's what we're out here trying to do.
Okay. Well said. You guys have been asking so many good questions. I've pulled aside a ton already. So just to reiterate, some of you have been saying there's no energy. There's been energy since exactly an hour ago in the theater. So if you're not seeing it, I don't know, refresh, try another world. But yeah, it's working. Someone said I'm a newbie. Where do I get energy? If you go to Terravilla, it's in the theater. It's a little bit like top left-ish. And yeah, if you have any more questions, throw them in the YouTube live chat. You guys have already been asking so many good ones. So we'll start going through some of them now. I think Luke covered a lot, but we'll still go through a lot of them just to reiterate some points and whatnot.
Oh, this is a great question, actually. I'm going to pull this one up. If we have an earn mechanism, we must have a spend mechanism variety for Pixel and games, not just purchase using coin or for guild to make games sustainable. That's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Yes. So the ecosystem rewards, you see 34%. Honestly, the 34% still scares me when it comes to emissions. Also, all the other emissions that you'll see too. Like here's how I view fundraising when it comes to Web3. I view fundraising almost like utility debt. where I am basically saying we are taking money. The foundation is taking money up front, and then it's utility that we have to provide in the future, right? And we're very aware of that. Like the token needs to be used. Basically, I like to think about it almost in the one-to-one. That's why I like to talk about ecosystem rewards as like budget, essentially. It is budget, and it's also targets that we have for burn every single month. So if you look at the white paper, actually, here, I think I talk about this a little bit in the white paper. Yeah, rewards evolution. So if you guys haven't watched the white paper, please, or like read the white paper, please read this because there's a lot of really cool stuff. I don't really see many other people doing this kind of stuff. I wrote most of this white paper. I'm pretty proud of it. A lot of grammar errors, maybe forgive me on that one. But here's a lot of the experimentation that we're doing. Basically, every single month we'll have Pixel to give out to the ecosystem, right? And what we want to do is we want to distribute it in the most efficient way possible. So for us, what we think about in terms of efficiency is one, when you're thinking about ecosystem growth, you probably want to give the token to people who are more likely to spend the token, right? Like you want to give the token to people who like the game most. It's just the best situation for everybody. And then you also want to give the token to different types of people who like the game most. Because if you give all the tokens to just like one type of person, like if you give all the tokens in your play to earn rewards to just people who cut wood, you also forget about the other people who are providing other people who are providing value in the ecosystem. So we break down personas in this like white paper. We talk about like, okay, we want to give ecosystem rewards to like this person and this person and this person. But then there's also an option for us to give out less in a given month. If we don't feel like we've provided sufficient utility in a given month, in order to protect sustainability inside of the ecosystem, we might not just distribute the full amount that we have that budget for every single month. So again, I say the word budget because I like to view it as like a max amount of rewards that we can give out every single month. It's vested on chain, so we can't take out more than this budget, but we also might not spend all this budget either if we haven't balanced it properly with utility. So when you go and look at things in here, you can see these emissions actually kind of matter a lot when you're thinking about utility. So when you see TGE, this is what I'm talking about when I say unlocking more at TGE up front is actually kind of advantageous. And it's actually much more healthy for the ecosystem. It's something that is kind of complicated. I was actually just talking to the team about this earlier today. Tokenomics is complicated, right? It's not super easy to understand. I was debating how much I dive into this with all of you people. But basically, when you have a token that's unlocked up front, you have less of a slope here, right? Like there is less that we have to fight against emissions. And essentially we give ourselves a bit of time to start figuring out like how we can have more utility for the token in the long run, right? So you'll see at month 12 when, investor lockups, things like that come, there's going to be, more need for even more utility inside of the game around the token. And, this is the exact kind of stuff that we're thinking about and planning, and like I'm thinking about 24/7. So, you see this big upfront TGE, just note that it's actually probably going to be much more common in the future with tokens because it, one, helps ease the slope of emissions, and two, makes our lives a bit easier in the short run as we're thinking about how we can provide more and more utility for the token. So yeah, I wonder if I still have some of these old graphs, but token utility, let's go into that really quickly. We have basically a roadmap and a bunch of different things we'll be releasing for the token over the course of the token's lifespan, which is hopefully forever. But in the first like month or two, we'll start adding more and more stuff. Essentially, we'll start to allow VIP purchases in the Pixel token. We'll do more pets mints in the Pixel token. You'll be able to purchase coins in the Pixel token. Anything that we do with realms or UGC features, those will be used in the Pixel token. Basically, most of these are ready. I think guilds is the really interesting one that will, I think will do a good amount of impact on, locking up token, removing it from circulating supply early on, essentially. So yeah, these are the things that we're thinking about really early on. But yeah, we totally think about sustainability inside of the game every single day with Pixel. For us, Pixel needs to be useful. We honestly want more people talking about what Pixel does and how to earn it. But we also think earnings are fun too. Like we've never been against earnings inside of the game. I think that's actually one of the like really interesting parts about Web3. but again, it's just making it sustainable. So one, I want you to look at this graph and think about the difference between this and Berry. This is public, it's predictable. Everybody can see the emissions. Everybody knows what it's going to be. You can form expectations around this. With Berry, number one, this curve was like an exponential thing. I think how Berry worked was it inflated about like 60 to 90% a month with the ecosystem that we had currently. Now, again, we were going to make some changes in chapter 2 that might have fixed that, but do we want to bet on what we're doing here, all on that kind of stuff? Like what we want to do is de-risk this. But yeah, that's like a bit of a like dive into it too. So the interesting thing too is what happens when we actually do start burning a good amount of token? Like what if this token is actually doing like all that we want it to do when it comes to token utility? We actually might not have sufficient ecosystem rewards to distribute then, right? Well, the interesting thing about the community treasury is you'll start to see community treasury grow as well too, and hopefully, as we start to continue down this road, that ecosystem or that the community treasury, or like the DAO, essentially decides to recirculate tokens. They like give some trust to us to do it, but really, it's going to be up to you guys too. So, yeah, I don't love the word value accrual to a token, but like that's some of the stuff that we think about too. It's like, how do we give the community more say in what we do in the long run, essentially? So yeah, our job at Pixels is to build as good of a game as possible that uses the Pixel token. And then eventually your job as somebody who's an owner inside of this ecosystem too is going to be also to determine what the best use of the Pixel token is. Is it going to be giving it to us to distribute through our game? Maybe the DAO will decide not to. Now, one thing to note here about our governance structure is that we have a hard timeline on implementing governance, 12 months, which is a bit different than maybe some other projects that you've seen where there's milestones, things like this. We're pretty committed to this essentially. 12 months will essentially give us enough time to focus on game development, and then we can help get all the DAO stuff set up. But yeah, in 12 months, basically, DAO will be set up using the Pixel token, and it'll be managing community treasury. So cool stuff there. Really excited about it. Note that's a really big thing there, and we're gonna do it.
Sorry. Do you want to just explain what emissions are? Maybe some people don't fully understand that.
Yeah. So it's funny because you're in Web3, right? And you don't always see the stuff going on in the background. It's really technical. It's hard to understand. Emissions are basically every single month, there will be new tokens coming into the ecosystem. So there is a cap supply on the token, right? There's only going to be 5 billion Pixel tokens ever. But at the very beginning of the Pixel token, not all the Pixel tokens will be available, right? There are going to be lockups on the Pixel tokens. Like, for example, the team has a 1-year lockup on its tokens. So nobody in the team gets any tokens for 1 year. And then there's 3-year emissions on the lockups as well. So the team doesn't get all the tokens after 1 year. The team has their tokens like basically distributed every single month after that for the next 3 years. And investors are on the same schedule. Most advisors are. That's what we mean by emissions. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that. But that also means that the team is aligned too. So it's crazy. What's the difference between us and people who get the airdrop? Pixels, we don't get to sell when we list on Binance. We don't get to leave. We have to be here, really, right? Like if we want to see the fruits of our hard work, we don't even get anything for a year. So we're incentivized essentially, the Pixels team, in order to support the ecosystem in the long run. And that's a really important thing. What's that Warren Buffett quote, or is it Charlie Munger? Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. Just know that you have a team that's extremely passionate and heavily incentivized to see the token do its best over the long run.
Okay, let's dive into some other questions. Okay. Okay. What is the new system? How was the new system dealing with bots?
Yeah, so bot detection is a couple things, right? It's one, the actual detection and prevention. So things like CAPTCHAs, the prevention side. What's interesting is people don't really understand that CAPTCHAs don't work in 2024. They didn't work in 2023. They kind of worked in 2022. CAPTCHAs are not working. So prevention tools actually don't really work in Web3 gaming at all. Now, what we do for a lot of our bot detection is we do basically data analysis on in-game behaviors, and we'll do ban waves that way. And that works a little bit, but it's also kind of easy to miss people, and it's also easy to get really false positives. So for two, the other side of the table in game design is, or in bot prevention detection is game design. And again, like that quote, show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. Chapter 1 of Pixels had incentives that kind of encouraged botting and multi-accounting. Basically, with our energy system and the way that it worked before without the Taskboard, every single new player that came to the game generated more resources, and it basically created a system where if you have more accounts, you have an advantage, right? But in Chapter 2, that's not the case. If you have more accounts in Chapter 2, it won't actually help you at all. And that's the difference, right? Bots can't even use the task board right now. They haven't been written for it yet. They will probably be able to not too long from now. But that's not the case. So, I love this. I love this comment. What protects the bot game is daily energy. Idiot. No, it's actually energy put no dent into bots at all. Because you can just make 1,000 bots, right? And then it didn't really matter if you ran out of energy because you had 1,000 of them, right? And this is what we're trying to get at when we talk about game design when it comes to bot prevention and detection. So the changes that we're making, especially with things like how things about how you can only use like crafting stations one by one now, right? If you have 1,000 bots and you only have one crafting station,
Good
doesn't
luck.
help you, right? Good luck. It doesn't. You can't do anything there. So yeah, that's a big change. I think I just saw something about that. Oh yeah, somebody. Some pixels. Please remove one at a time usage of industries. It is so annoying to wait 1 hour, and then someone will replace you if you're not fast enough. So this is why we're also expanding specs, and this is what we're talking about when we talk about why we want people to be on their spec a bit more. So, or you work with a guild, right, that you trust. So we have a couple of really fun features that are going to tie in all the stuff that we're working on with Chapter 2 a lot better coming up. The first being spec upgrades and improvements. So if you have a spec now, spec is small, can't put much stuff on it, right? We'll actually allow you to put more stuff on it soon. You'll actually be able to make your spec bigger. You'll get more room, and it's going to be a part of the upgrading flow. So your game experience is going to be a bit more interesting that way. And actually, because everybody's specs will be a bit different, you might have some other industries. You'll actually probably want to visit your friend's specs too. So we're expecting a lot more gameplay to form around this area. And then the other part too is a guild. So this is where we see a lot of guilds coming into play too. Like we expect guilds to at least like if they don't own land, they'll like maybe lease land or use land of other players. What they'll be able to do is they'll be able to like basically provide you like all these crafting resources. So you want to join a guild that has enough of these crafting tables where you don't have to wait, right? And that's gonna be the really interesting thing when we introduce bonding curves, right? And the other guild incentives. Like it will kind of matter when you join a guild which one you join because there's going to be a lot of different things in game that they'll differ around. Guilds are going to have to work together to build out like the best bases, and they don't want to get too big either because then their players won't have a great experience. But if they are too big, then they better make sure that they're very well resourced. And if they're not, if they're giving people a bad experience inside of the guild, maybe people will be selling these guild memberships and the guild price won't be the same. There's just so much interesting meta gameplay, right? This is like the stuff I'm geeking out on. And I actually think the game is going to be like extremely interesting when we get all of this out. It's going to roll out over like the next month or two too. Guilds is going to release right at the Pixel token launch. Bonding curves memberships. That's going to be crazy when we launch that. And we're going to see a ton of like excitement around that too. So yeah, I know there's so much uncertainty right now because we're making so many changes. But yeah, I hope you guys like can hear like how much we care about this. Like, and how excited we are about the next stages. Like I wouldn't come up here confidently if I didn't really believe in what we were doing here, right? Like I could have just I don't know. It would be easy to be very nervous and scared in this situation as a founder right now, right? But I'm really not, because I actually really believe that these things that we're doing are, one, like a really net benefit to everybody here in this ecosystem. Two, like the stuff that we're working on is going to be huge and amazing, and like it's going to change gaming. And then three, um, yeah, like there's just so much excitement and like things to be happy about with all of this too. So let's also try to look at the positive side, right?
Okay. All right. So Taskboard. They're talking about proportional balance, all of that. Yeah. So work in progress, and we have already made an update to a bunch of the tasks. We're already working on rebalancing it. So, yeah, we're listening. We're paying attention. We want these to be balanced. I hear you. 10 milk. Good luck.
Yeah, I think there
Good luck.
is.
Right. So there've already been a lot of updates made to the tasks. Okay.
Oh, somebody just asked, can we sell resources in Pixel? So this is the change that's coming tomorrow. If you have a bunch of resources right now and you were mad because you didn't sell them in Berry, one, you got Berry. So like, yeah, you might have resources too. Two, we're introducing Pixel tasks inside of the task board tomorrow. So you'll get to kind of see how the task board works fully in chapter 2. And there'll be a bit of testing and iterating on it right now. But this is our kind of our way to test it before Pixel is fully live as well. But you'll get actual Pixel with it. This is like you can call it like an airdrop kind of thing, or like maybe even a resource buyback if you want to frame it that way. But yeah, we'll introduce taskboard tasks in Pixel. And I'm telling you guys, if you've been using the taskboard and getting coins now, this is going to change everything. It is going to make the game so much different when there's actual Pixel for the rewards. You're going to see. So basically, how I can explain this to you is, say that I get a taskboard task and I see that this one is in Pixel, and it's this really rare item that I don't have. It's a fish, or it's like 100 milkshakes, but I know what that pixel is worth to me. I have to get this item now. If I don't have this item, I can go out and collect it, right? Like I can do all the work myself, or I can find people to trade these items for with me. And I need coins, because you can only trade coins inside of the game in order to actually get these items. So there actually is going to be a really interesting coin economy when we have the pixel tasks out. But basically, we need the like backing of the pixel tasks to have that like relationship with coins too. So the coin economy is going to be really, really interesting when we have it out. Essentially, you're going to need to trade coins to get all the pixel task stuff. Or if you are getting a bunch of coins, you'll be able to get stuff that other people need to get their pixel tasks. So yeah, everything's going to change in terms of like how this taskboard gameplay feels when Pixel's out. I promise, give it a chance. It's going to be really fun. There's going to be like all this new meta gameplay. It's not going to, Pixels is not going to play in the same ways that you did before, even though like if you want to do the exact same kind of gameplay that you did before, like if you just love farming water mint and that's your hobby, your jam, you can just probably still farm water mint. But then the other interesting thing too is people are probably going to start to also want to do other things. So maybe I hate water mint and I want to, chop trees now. And tree chopping, I don't know if you guys have followed this. It's so much more fun now. Like you might actually have to like hunt on different people's lands for trees now, right? And if you want to be that, if you want that to be your job, and somebody who's lazy, who doesn't want to chop trees, wants to get, the logs that you have, they'll have to give you coins for it. Then now you have coins where you'll be able to much more easily unlock your pixel tasks when you have, really good tasks for pixel. If you're following that, I hope so. But I think you'll get it once we have pixel into the task board tomorrow.
Yeah, and just read trees and industries that are single use. So all the craftable ones now are single player use, right? The ones in Terravilla are not, and there are 2 trees near Jack and Jill. I think it's 2 that are multiplayer use. So if you're like, I need wood, and I like right this second, there are a couple trees available in Terravilla itself. And everything Luke spoke to, I'm just going to reiterate, because this is like the biggest question we keep getting, is just like the connection between coins and pixel, right? So coins enables gameplay that allows you to participate in tasks that will reward you in pixel. That's the TLDR. But yeah, great said, Luke.
Yeah,
Okay.
This is a great question. So yes, this is another key point. The diversity of resources is very limited right now, and the minimum level for their farming is also low. We've had the same repetitive resources for a long time. Has this issue been resolved in chapter 2? Yes, you get it. No, you understand this. Thank you. Yes, the resources is very limited right now, and the minimum levels for farming is very low on them. And now what we're introducing in chapter 2 is more resources that have different tiers and levels that need to be required to unlock. So there's going to be this really interesting progression inside of the ecosystem in game 2. So you totally got it. This is the other stuff that we're working on in chapter 2 as well.
People keep freaking out over your example of 100 milkshakes. Just, guys, it was a random thing that Luke said. Okay, don't take that to heart. Ignore it. Okay.
No more trading items. No, you can still trade items. And actually, we expect people to have to trade items much more, right?
Yeah.
Now that you can't sell these items directly to the store in the same way, the marketplace is going to become a much bigger part of the game. And so is trading as well, right?
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was just going to address this. I've gotten this question a lot. Okay. So I actually asked them to put like a timer on the dashboard. So it's a lot more clear of when you can claim your daily rewards in the dashboard. Because right now, I agree, it's not totally obvious about why you can't. It probably hasn't been 24 hours since the last time you logged in. That's that is the issue. Okay. So that's the reason it's not claimable yet. So I did request that there's a timer put in. We'll see if that's possible. Because obviously I don't know if it's possible, but I think it is. So that's the reason.
Peer-to-peer coin trading would be legal or illegal. So actually, I think it's completely fine to peer-to-peer trade. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But I see coins maybe becoming a cryptocurrency eventually, not anytime soon, like never ever soon. But once we maybe figure it out, we have like a very good feel of it. Maybe we put it back on chain. But to be with the ethos, I don't care if you peer-to-peer trade it, but not having it on chain makes it much easier to balance, and then allows us to focus on Pixel too. So I guess the question to you guys is, do you want us to split our energy and focus on balancing two currencies, one of which would be very, very difficult to balance completely on chain, especially when we had the attention of like a major exchange on top of our project, right? So imagine if we got the listing on Binance for Pixel and we still had Berry live, how many people would go and speculate and then start to purchase Berry, and what that effect would have? Like, we would probably have a little mini run on Berry, just like, SLP did at one point. But the thing is, the fundamentals of Berry weren't there, right? So we had a ton of offers to list Berry on exchanges. We turned them all down. We could have Berry could have gone in very different ways, what I'll say. And we are really glad that we were able to make this choice, because now we don't have to repeat mistakes, basically. Like, what's been great about working with Sky Mavis is, they have so much perspective on Web3 gaming that, they were able to share a lot of wisdom and knowledge around, what it really means to balance a soft currency. And what's interesting is, they actually had like tons of resources and input on how we can do it. And, again, at the end of the day, like they were suggesting that we keep it on chain, even just transparency there too, because they actually kind of know how to do that now. My team, not so much, right? And that's not like a knock on Pixels, but it's like, where do we want to put our bets and where do we want to focus our time and energy? That's why we made this change, right? So yeah, go ahead and trade coins however you want. I don't care. Yeah.
Okay, this is just to reiterate, because you mentioned it earlier. So you'll start to see Pixel tasks in your taskboard tomorrow. They will be in-game Pixel as per usual, and then on TGE, Pixel will be on-chain token, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so Philippines are sad that Binance won't. I think Binance is getting banned in the Philippines, which, yeah, that is really sad, right? All I'll say is there will probably be more announcements. So yeah, we know that this is an issue. We also know that the Philippines is one of our largest player bases. So we'll stay in touch about that. But also remember, we're on Ronin, right? And yeah, Pixel will be on Katana. So don't worry too much about that. Most of you know how to use Katana, right?
Yeah. I've seen lots of questions about Katana as well. Like, when will it be active and all of that? So it should be active at the February 19th, same time. Okay. What other questions?
How about the new player? Can they also earn Pixel, or is it too hard to get them to earn resources in Pixel? So this is a lot of what we're going to be experimenting with too. So when we think about how we want to grow the ecosystem, right? Like, it's actually beneficial for all of us if we get more players, right? Like, we want the ecosystem to grow. You guys are all owners in this ecosystem, right? So we want to have more players, and we want to create incentives for them to join as well. So yeah, we want to make sure that there's incentives for people to come in for the first time. So yeah, there's going to be a balance on the free to play reward side of things. But if you look at some of the personas, here's the targeting earnings section of our paper. You'll see there's 4 people that we're considering when we start to distribute earnings. It's the free to play players, VIPs, landowners, and then Pixels ambassadors. So I saw some questions about VIPs, and I just want to call out. I know some people have VIP expiring, or there's like some concern about VIP. I actually think VIP in Chapter 2 is going to be so much better. It's going to make more sense. So if you look at the task board, you'll get pixel tasks, right? If you have VIP, you will get more tasks in Pixel sent to you. So you'll have many more opportunities to earn Pixel if you have VIP, essentially. We're actually going to set aside specific pools of the Pixel token just for VIPs, and we'll do the same thing with landowners too.
Okay, let's see here.
People really want
Yeah,
easy way to click on the Taskboard.
I've seen a few messages like this. I think we talked about it on the team a bit. I'm not sure if this is intended to come. It might be a bot thing. I don't know. We'll see. It's a good idea. It would be great. I agree.
Somebody's active. Do you know what happened with the skill stuff today? I wasn't following that. I know there's a tiny bug in that.
Yeah. Okay. So that was actually a little bit of a premature release. So XP has changed, and it's kind of, honestly, the design team explained it to me in the most technical way. I was hoping Luke would describe it to me. But it has to do with like balance of leveling up when you're a beginner player versus a ladder player. And like we've talked a lot about in Chapter 2, there's going to be these higher tiered level resources. So it all has to do with the balance of Chapter 2 gameplay. So it was a bit of a premature release to be released to production yesterday, but it is in anticipation of all of the new gameplay and balancing that's coming in Chapter 2. Okay. So why do you look so serious, guys? We're all happy. Yeah. We're tired. We're excited, but we're tired. Yeah. My morning was crazy. I feel like I'm still like getting over it. I basically like woke up and then 5 minutes later was on the team call learning about like, okay, set up an AMA. Okay, we're there. Like, it was just, but we're here.
I slept like 2 hours in like 7, or I slept like 2 hours in 3 days.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, let me see. Someone also just said this, and I just thought it was like good. There hasn't been a fully sustainable Play-to-Airdrop game yet ever. This is like basically what Luke talks about all the time, is like we're in search of finding that balance, right? So yeah, we appreciate your comment.
Yeah. So someone else asked about VIP. VIP is expiring. I think what might be fair, I'll talk to the devs. It might be fair to like extend your VIP like a couple.
Yeah, I already talked to Gar about this actually.
Yeah. So if you have VIP expiring.
Yeah, I think we, just because during these 2 weeks, we're thinking about extending it 2 weeks just to like kind of cover this.
Maybe even longer.
In between period. All right, we'll chat.
What's the point of finishing tasks and getting coins if we can't convert it to pixel? If that's the case, converting pixels to coin is way better. So basically, not every task that you'll get will give you pixel, but if you want to get certain items inside of the game, you'll only be able to trade in game with coins. So that's what other players will trade you for, right? So there won't be a direct relation between coins and pixel, but it's going to be indirect, if that makes sense. So coins will kind of have a proxy value for that reason, right? It's going to be somewhat anchored to pixel, because if you have coins, you'll be able to get tasks, or at least the resources that you need for tasks, with coins from other players, right? Unless you could probably play the game without ever trading with somebody. And then coins wouldn't be as useful to you. Maybe you'll still need it for spec upgrading, for like, putting stuff on there. So like there will be progression stuff you need with coins too, But a lot of the use of coins too is, trading in marketplace and that kind of stuff. So if you want to get resources that are kind of scarce from other people, you'll need to barter something, right? And that'll be easiest to use coins with.
Okay. Are there any other ones you wanted to address?
Please add tiering and tasks. So there actually are task tiers already. And if you level up, you'll get better tasks.
Yeah. And that's like a huge part of like the chapter 2 changes as well.
Yep. Can non-VIP access marketplace? And marketplace lags. So yes, we're going to probably ease restrictions on marketplace because the marketplace is going to be such a big part of the gameplay moving forward. And with these changes, bots are less of a concern to us now when it comes to a lot of the resource generation. So we can ease a lot of this now. We can still offer perks for VIP or for like reputation points. We'll also probably have a tie-in with reputation and Taskboard as well. Because we know if you have high reputation, you're a better user inside of Pixels. You've done like a lot of stuff and you've been with us for a long time, right? So we can actually increase your Pixel earnings if you have better reputation points as well.
Yeah, and if you read all of our announcements yesterday, we've already eased it. It used to be 1,500 reputation points, now it's 1,200. So we've already taken a step with that. And yeah, there have been some server issues. Our dev team has been working extremely hard on getting through that. So yeah, thanks for your patience with that.
Yep. And is the limit on trading lifting up too? So yeah, we're gonna ease trading restrictions too. Like we want trading to be a much more common part of the game loop. We'll still add like some requirements, but we won't need to be as strict on some of the trading as well. Now that we don't have Barry associated with the trading, right? Like so, with here's what was happening with bots inside of Pixels. What they would do is they would all like automate, they would farm, and then they would like trade the feeder accounts. So they would have like one or two accounts with VIP that all their little minions would send resources to. And then that one or two VIP accounts, they would withdraw, right? So the trade limits were in place for that. And then they actually got kind of complex sometimes too. They had like layers. So like they had like collectors that would go to other collectors. It's like a mafia, but for bots basically, where like there's like levels and levels up. But yeah, now that it's not tied into Barry, there's still maybe tiny incentives to do the botting, but it's going to be much, much harder to build bots that actually work inside of this game now. The game changes are going to be a lot different. We can be a lot easier on trading, right? Like we don't have to be so strict on it.
Okay. Are there any other questions you want to address? I know we're already at an hour, past an hour, because we just wanted to make sure we cover everything today. Yeah.
I think we got through a lot. So we're gonna keep doing this very often because I see so many, honestly, really good questions. Like, yeah, no, I appreciate all of you because it seems like the energy shifted a little bit. And yeah, thanks so much for being here on this AMA with us. We're gonna keep answering all these questions about the gameplay. I know it's crazy because like we just made so many big changes to the gameplay, and we're gonna keep making them. Like we have so much lined up for chapter 2, and then there's even chapter 2.5 with like dungeons and caverns that we're about to start like internally testing and playing too. Like there's some cool stuff coming up, guys.
We just released like 3 new maps, and I haven't heard a ton about them, but yeah, we've got the beach down in the south of Terravilla. There's a construction site on the right hand, the Rainbow Road on the right or the east, and then on the west there's a new football field. So see you there on Sunday, right? Huge football fan, clearly. So just to end things off, okay.
Couple final housekeeping things too, because we're about to have airdrop stuff. So you will not need VIP to withdraw a pixel for the airdrop, and there won't be any fees with it either. We'll actually even pay gas on Ronin Network. So yeah, no fees to withdraw. We might have like a bit of reputation in front of withdrawals for Pixel. But the interesting thing about Pixel, it's different than Barry, right? Where we intentionally give you Pixel. If you get a Pixel task, it's because we gave it to you and we chose you, right? So we don't have to be as worried about giving you, like, we don't have to be as worried about withdrawal limits basically when we have it out. We'll probably ease a lot of those limits there.
If you the way you just worded that though, now I'm gonna get like, Heidi, can you give me a pixel task? Like, no. The system The system is giving it out. I cannot. Okay, don't ask. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be around. We'll be in Discord. We'll keep answering all the questions. I don't know. Maybe we need to do another live stream because like there's just so much going on. There's so much going on. So thank you all for being here with us today. I'm gonna just end this off by actually just showing our Pixel calendar that's coming up because I just added another event to it. So we've got Dizzy Dragons Lunar New Year party is happening tomorrow, well, for me. So open up the Pixels calendar in game and you can see. We've got our 6th unfungible Twitter space happening on Tuesday, our live stream, and then we've got a concert in Pixels, guys. And that is starting, or that will be an unfortunate time for myself, but I'm really excited for that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Sweet. Well, yeah, thanks for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll honestly probably do some like more frequent AMAs over the next 2 weeks. Probably more than our like single one. We'll like label them. You don't feel like you have to come to everyone. But yeah, I think it's important for us right now to just be like pretty present and with you guys a lot.
Amazing. All right. See you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.